Hi, I'm Raquel. Welcome to another hands-on art tutorial. Today, I'm going to show you how to make some tie-dye patterns using bleach. By the way, what is tie-dye?
Tie-dye is an ancient technique of dyeing fabrics and can be found all over the world. The process of tie-dye consists of folding, twisting, pleating or crumbling fabric and binding with string or rubber bands, followed by the application of dyes, which partly or completely stops the applied dye from coloring the fabric. We can find beautiful examples of it all over the world, but the most iconic wave was in the 1960s hippie movement in the USA. Everyone had a crazy rainbow t-shirt. Today I was inspired firstly by the psychedelic 60s, but also by some older techniques from other countries like shiborizomi from Japan, bandani from India, and batiks from Africa. Feel free to research tie-dye more. I'm sure that just like me, you'll find some inspiring work. I chose to make this video because when I started playing with tie-dye a while ago, I was amazed with the results I got. Tie-dye falls between a scientific experiment and an artistic one. Instead of using regular dyes, I chose to have my fun with what I had in my cupboard, bleach. Now let me just tell you what I found out. Bleach reacts with air. It goes through an oxidation process. This means the results you get from tie-dyeing with bleach is dependent on how long it's left out in the air. So you need to let it act on the fabric, but in full air contact. The amount of time you leave the fabric in bleach won't necessarily determine how light your fabric will be if you rinse it through water straight away. That will just determine how much bleach the fabric will soak. After it's soaked in bleach, the amount of time you leave it air drying will then determine how much oxidation you'll get. Sounds confusing? Stay tuned. By the end of the video, I'll explain a bit more. For this activity, I have the following on my trolley. Bleach, a spray bottle, a small container for bleach, lots of bits of fabric, cotton buds to save the failed creations, bottle caps, square pieces of wood or cardboard, a stencil, 4 paddle pop sticks or pencils. Now let's take a look at some important points before we begin.
Make sure to open all doors. Really, all doors.
Working outside is best to avoid stains and be able to breathe in fresh air. I highly recommend you wearing gloves and goggles to protect your eyes and skin, and an apron to protect your clothes. Now, the first technique we're going to approach is the classic spiral effect. For that, we're going to need rubber bands, a container with bleach, and a bucket of water. I like to keep the bucket right by my side so I can quickly stop the oxidation process when I'm happy with the color. Start with one rubber band, pull the fabric from the center, and tie it like a tight ponytail. Then add as many rubber bands as you would like and distribute them evenly along the fabric. Now we're ready to apply bleach. I've chosen to soak it up until the last rubber band. Be careful not to get your fingers wet with bleach because they might stain parts of the fabric you don't want stained. Give it a good squeeze. Let it sit for a few minutes and pay attention to the color change so you can stop it when you're happy. For example, I'm happy with the level of oxidation now, on this last bit of fabric. So I'm going to dip it in clean water and wash the bleach out.
Quando era mais novo, havia uma coisa muito bonita que era a sedução.
I've only dipped it until here, and this should now be clean enough to stop the bleach from acting in this area. The rest of the fabric is still soaked in bleach, and I'm going to leave it to air dry for a bit longer. In 10 to 20 minutes you should notice a difference, but if you don't, just wait a bit longer and keep checking on it. Now comes the exciting part. Let's open this up. See what I mean? It's so satisfying. I love this result, but I'm not going to rinse it just yet, because I know that when the fabric is wet, the colors always look more vivid, so I'm going to let it air dry a bit longer, open on a flat surface, before I rinse it in water and wash away the bleach. 10 minutes in this case was enough, but keep your eye on it, as it can also depend on the type of fabric you have. For the folding technique, we need to start with the fabric spread out as flat as possible, with no creases, then we fold it neatly into a paper fan or a concertina kind of shape. One fold towards you, another in the opposite direction, until you reach the end of your material. Then do the same thing along the short edge. One fold towards you, another in the opposite direction, until you're left with the whole fabric folded into a little square. Then get two squared shaped bits about the same size as your little bit of material. They can be wooden or made of plastic or cardboard. Place one in the top and one in the bottom like a sandwich, and tie it with rubber bands. Place it in the container of bleach and press it down, making sure the fabric is properly soaked. This matters because the tighter the fabric is held together by the bands, the harder it can be for the bleach to reach. After it's soaked all over, we're going to leave it air dry for a longer period of time. Try half an hour, and don't forget to keep your eye on the oxidation process. This was one of my favorite surprises. The next technique is quite similar. We start folding the concertina or paper fan style like we did before, but instead of folding into a square along the short edge, we will fold it into a triangular shape. Same logic as before, one triangle towards you, one away from you. It's a bit trickier, but you'll get the hang of it. Then comes the hard part. Take 4 popsicle sticks and make them identical cross shapes on each side, like a sandwich. Then tie them together with rubber bands.
Havia uma coisa muito bonita que era a sedução. Quando era mais novo, havia uma coisa muito bonita que era a sedução.
In this example, we see the fabric didn't soak enough bleach, although it had enough time drying in the air to oxidize well. But no harm done. Just take a paintbrush, dip it in bleach, and work your design until you're happy with the results. Here's a simpler but very popular technique, the spiral effect. For this, pinch the center of your fabric and twist it in one direction until the whole thing comes together. Then tie it with rubber bands and place it in bleach. Remove it from bleach once it had a good soaking and leave it to air dry, always keeping an eye on the process until you're happy. Then rinse it in clear water. Now it's time for one more square folding technique, and this time we're using 2 bottle caps for the sandwich part. sink it in the bleach and make sure it's totally soaked so we don't have another triangle experiment disaster. Then leave it air drying, always taking a peek at the process. Now comes the best part, opening. It's so crazy. I'll rinse this one straight away, no waiting this time. I couldn't resist this unicorn stencil we had lying around, so I thought I'd better use it.
Quando era mais novo, havia uma coisa muito bonita que era a sedução.
Ta-da! Okay, so these are all the spiral work, but for example, they stayed in different times on the bleach, and for that we got different results. This was the folding technique, but folding only in square, and we used bottle caps for this one. So this one was a smaller bottle cap, and this one was from the big bottles. And then this was probably with little squares, and this one was bigger squares. And as you can see, we always get different results. These were all from folding technique with triangle, and the triangle was dipped in different parts. In this, I believe that it was dipped like this, and in this one it was dipped like this. This one, I don't remember which side, but I know that it wasn't dipped for enough time. So I just got the lighter shades, I wasn't happy, and then I took a paintbrush and a cotton bud and I did like all these crazy effects. And then I was happy with it. Again, folding technique, folding in squares, but this time we used a wooden square in the middle. And once again, the amount of time you leave it in bleach and soaking the bleach and leaving the bleach oxidizing, you get different results. This one didn't soak as much bleach, but it was left outside much longer before I rinse it with water. So this is why it's so white and this one is so orange. But this one stayed inside the bleach for much longer time, and then outside the bleach, it didn't oxidize as much time as this one. This is why we have so many shades. You get the hang of it in time. With doodles, you take advantage of crazy stains you make in a fabric, and then you let it dry. You need to rinse it, don't leave the bleach there. And after you're happy with the stains and everything is washed and dried, you take a pen, a permanent pen, and you do all these drawings. So this technique is also very cute, especially if you're careful to choose the pen of the same color of the base color of the fabric. Ta-da! This is my collection. Now please, we would love to see what you've done. So please send us some pictures of your work so that we can take a look. So that's it for today. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you on our next video.